So we're dedicating tonight's show to little Leo Stevenson, 12-year-old young man out of Jacksonville, Florida. He is the grandson of my senior class president from Sandalwood High School, class of 1974, Pete and Betty Carranza. Um, Leo lost a valiant fight with leukemia on this time last week. Um, he had um, he had undergone chemo and radiation in the last year or so. He's had this, been battling this for 2 years now, and he had gone to Atlanta where his younger brother donated a bone marrow to him, and he never really recovered from the bone marrow surgery. His parents, his mother and father, his mother particularly, has been very, very open, posting his daily progress since that surgery 2 weeks ago on Instagram. And Pete was sharing it out and adding his commentary. If you get a chance, go over to Facebook and look under Pete Carranza, and you'll see everything. So Leo left us very, very, even though he was fighting and having a hard fight. Um, I did not know that he was. We all thought that he was gonna be all right and he was gonna survive this thing. But Leo, 12 years old, left us on last Monday night, and we're gonna dedicate tonight's dialogue to him and to his family. We're praying with this family who is in a very powerful faith struggle, having lost their 12-year-old son to childhood leukemia. He leaves his mother and father and two younger siblings. Leo was celebrated by the Jacksonville Sharks a few months ago, just prior to going up to Atlanta for the surgery. They had him in the locker room prior to the game and brought him in halftime. They brought him back after the game. They gave him game balls, and he was highly celebrated. You go to Pete's page on Facebook, you'll see some of that. We dedicate the night's dialogue with Dozie with our broken hearts to Leo Stevenson and his family, his siblings, his grandparents, and family and friends, and all of us who loved him, and thank his family for sharing this journey with us. It has allowed all of us to grow stronger. Tonight's dialogue dedicated to Leo Stevenson. Okay, so we've been gone for a while. Well, let's see, we were back the night that my wife got in and I got in from celebrating our 45th anniversary. We were on the show. We did the Purple Rain Show, which was one of our highest rated dialogues. And if you haven't had a chance to see it, you will have as much viewing it as we had putting it together. Our girl Linda Scott came on. She was formerly our entertainment editor prior to starting her own Golden Square podcast, so on Thursday nights right here on this network. And she was with us, and we just had a great time looking back at the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain. And you all chimed in, and we just had a great time with it. So tonight's show was so hot that we couldn't do. It was so hot that we didn't have. It was so hot that we could not focus on one topic. Can you believe that? Tonight's dialogue was so hot that we could not focus in on one topic. And guess what else? Tonight's show was so hot that your boy's going to do it by himself along with you. You guys are going to help me do it. We're going to have a great time, and we're going to make this thing work. We're having some technical difficulties, but we're going to pull it through. We're going to start out the night show because we never fully discussed it. We're going to talk about first, we're going to talk some politics. Our goal is to be at the halfway mark of the show, to be through with politics and serious business and have some fun talking about sports and movies and those kinds of things on the second half of the show. But we'll play it by ear. Your comments will contribute to how this works out tonight. We have not yet talked about President Biden relinquishing the Democratic nomination to his vice president, Kamala Harris, about a month ago. And one of the greatest phenoms in political history, phenomenal events in political history occurred on that Sunday afternoon. Pretty much, very much unexpected to the most of us. President Biden withdrew from the race. We knew that he was pondering his fortunes or his future, political future. At 82 years old, he was pondering it after having had a horrific time at the initial debate with Trump back in late June, and he had come under so much pressure. And some of his very close allies were asking him to get out of the race for the sake of trying to win back the House and trying to preserve the Senate and trying to win the presidency, which was looking more and more as a fleeting possibility, according to the polls. And he withdrew as a gentleman that he has always been for the sake of the country. He withdrew because he knew that defeating this opponent and not losing democracy was bigger than anything, and so he withdrew, and in a brilliant move, he withdrew, and then 30 minutes, about an hour later, he endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris, and we know there were a lot of people who were out there. Shapiro out of Pennsylvania. Gavin Newsom out of California. Probably if there had been an open primary without an incumbent president, probably all would have run. And because of that, they were probably all candidates for the Democratic nomination. But when President Biden put his finger on his vice president, it kind of settled everything. Well, for a while, the party was trying to decide how they were going to go about nominating a candidate, and even with the president nominating or endorsing his vice president, Kamala Harris. And there was talk of a mini primary season. There was talk of former Presidents Obama and Clinton hosting a couple of interviews with potential candidates and then letting an open convention come through and decide who they want. But when President Biden put his finger on Kamala Harris, it kind of shut it all down and made it kind of a foregone conclusion. Kamala Harris unofficially nailed down the nomination about 3 weeks prior to the convention, which was held on last week. And she came out of the gate just like that Sunday that she was anointed, if you would, by President Biden. Black Women for Harris went right on Zoom that night and raised millions of dollars. The next day, black men raised millions of dollars. And they said white men for Trump, white dudes for Harris raised hundreds of millions of dollars. And then white women came on and raised, and then Republicans for Harris raised money. And when all was said and done, as of last week, she has over $1 billion, well over $500 million in her campaign kitty, which is unheard of for any candidate. It's unprecedented for a candidate to have raised that much money with this much time remaining this short of a period of time remaining in any presidential cycle. And it's unbelievable. I mean, guys like me kind of think kind of theological and would say, wow, it looked like a foregone conclusion that the other guy was just going to waltz into the White House, and then with one hip slip of a pen or one press of a button that went out on X, formerly Twitter, this lady who was not much thought of by many political circles in political circles rises and she comes on with such rousing, such great popularity, and then she would eventually do so well as she did at the convention on last week. So we're talking about that. Speak to your boy on the presidential election. Kamala Harris, as she says, the fight has just begun, and I think everybody needs to take note, even though she has that war chest, financial war chest, and even though she came out very, very strong on the on last week's convention. It was one of the most one of the most watched conventions in political history. The numbers were just soaring. They've come out and they far surpassed the Republican convention. It was so innovative, and it really had America. It had every, as Jesse Jackson would say, we're not one color, but we're a rainbow mixed together, and it had every color on the rainbow. Every person, every type, every personality type was represented, and just what an outstanding week it was last week. But as she would say, the fight has just begun. None of those things translate into an automatic victory. There's several variables. There are several variables that will determine that race. There's several variables that will help to determine that race, and we're going to talk about one of them in just a second. So let me say this, and some things I want to talk about pertaining to this. And by the way, it looks like Israel and Lebanon are just engaging in. I see you. You see me. That's the kind of battle that seems to be going on. Lebanon responded to the loss of the Hamas leader, and that just seemed to have been the just a response. I saw bombs going off in mountain country where there was no one living, and Israel didn't appear to be trying to bomb and kill anybody over in that area. So it looks like they're just posturing. One country has its pride; it has to get back because of the assassination of their leader, and that was as a result of the October tragedy on last October in Israel, where so many people were killed and then taken hostages in that rock concert. So and also just get these wars out of the way. Speaking of the war in Ukraine, Ukraine has now gone into Russia, which has to be the ultimate embarrassment to Putin. He's there making headway into Ukraine, and Ukraine backdoors him and goes into Russia and starts making headway there. This is a war that he thought would be over in a matter of months, possibly weeks, and it is now extended beyond a year. And it's amazing. He's got to be utterly surprised. He thought that would be an easy take back country, and it hasn't proven to be like that. And so we'll still keep praying and see how all of that turns out, because that was a sovereign nation that he's trying to annex to Russia. It's his desire to bring back the Soviet Union. If 45 gets in office, you got to cozy up. If a Democrat, if Kamala Harris becomes a president, Russia will always have to respect this nation and will not hold whatever they hold over 45's head. They won't be able to hold this country ransom. And surprisingly, the Republican Party has just been totally hijacked by a cultic personality. No one could have ever told me that would happen, not by that person anyway. And it was always the Republicans that were the hawks on Russia. It was Ronald Reagan who caused the Soviet Union to crumble because of his buildup and his determination to show Russia that militarily we were superior. And for that party to now allow its leader to just totally kiss up to that leader is unbelievable. It's unheard of. So we're going to look at some of these things. Tell me what you think? Tell me what do you think? Do you think that the president? How do you think this race is shaping up? In five of the seven swing states, Kamala Harris has a slight lead. She has come from where President Biden was behind, and almost all of them are maybe tied at best, and one of them She's leading in all but two of them. Nevada, well, actually three. Nevada is almost a dead heat. She's down 1 point. Over in Georgia, she's down a few points. In North Carolina, she's down 1 or 2 points. North Carolina is believed to be heavily in play because if you remember, it was their Democratic governor that was strongly considered as a vice presidential candidate. Yeah, we're going to talk about the vice presidential candidate too. And he withdrew his name from consideration for the Democratic nomination for vice president because had he resigned, the guy, the crazier than Trump guy, the black guy that's running for governor of who's now the lieutenant governor in North Carolina would have automatically become the governor and given him a heads up going into this fall's election. And smartly, the North Carolina governor did not want to give them that kind of advantage. So because this guy is such an extremist, he's more extreme than Trump and Vance and DeSantis and all of the crazies over in that party now. It's believed that state is very much in play. Georgia is a 1 or 2 point difference. Leadership right now by Trump. You see Trump cozying up to Governor Kemp, who he has dogged out and disparaged and had nothing good to say about. The current governor of Georgia, he's now kissing up to him, trying to mend that fence so that he doesn't have to beg illegally for votes this time after the election has been cast. And then Florida is believed to even possibly be in play. Florida, Kamala Harris was 2 points down last week. I don't know what it looks like coming out of the convention. She was 2 points down in the polls, and that was out without even making a campaign visit here, and that's unbelievable. And Florida has these two initiatives. It has the abortion initiative and it has the marijuana initiatives that believe is going to drive many to the polls that possibly wouldn't have gone. And with her now in the race, as opposed to Biden, they're thinking Democrats and Republicans are going to come out in great numbers. Now, here's the phenomenon about any race that Trump runs. He was down to President Biden by many points in several states, the swing states in 2020. He was down to Hillary Clinton in great numbers across the whole political landscape in 2016. And those polls turned out to be horrifically wrong. One person I know says that Russia hacked the 2016 election, and others say that Trump people just lie to the pollsters. When the pollsters poll them, they lie, else they come out at the last minute and vote for him. So this race is really too close to call in spite of the money that's been raised on the Democratic side and in spite of all of the popularity, because wherever she goes, there are great numbers. She packs these arenas out that Trump can't pack out. He says that she's using AI to falsely say that she has these numbers. It's really unbelievable. This guy is such a narcissist. I'm going to talk about that later, but it's just unbelievable. So the governor Walz out of Minnesota. Minnesota is one of the most you can call it liberal states, but it's in the Midwest, and Midwest is typically not liberal. But Minnesota is looked at as a live and let live state. It has always been a bastion of the LGBTQ plus community. One of the larger beyond this, San Francisco, and of course the second largest is right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But Minnesota has always been. I knew a couple when we were living in Illinois that flocked to Minnesota because of Minnesota's openness towards that lifestyle. And so Minnesota's just always been kind of a nice place to just let people be who they are and let people live as they are. And so he is a very popular governor. He spent many years in the House of Representatives. He went back to Minnesota and ran for governor and won the House seat in a ruby red Republican district there in Minnesota. He is a former coach. Let me say this because Trump made a big deal out of it. He's not a former head coach. He's a state champion. He was a former defensive coordinator. If you know anything about football, defensive coordinator is like the ad hoc assistant head coach, and that's the role that he had in a high school football team where he taught. And all you got to do is listen to his students, and they're not just saying that because he's been nominated. They have genuine affection for him and what he has done and what he's doing, and how he has the kind of man he has. They disparage his service record. The man, 24 years in the National Guard, which is by all legal standards the same as being in regular enlisted. You're still enlisted, and they've tried to disparage that. But he's a dynamic personality, a great campaigner, and he has coined a phrase. I won't use the term because my mom was listening, but he has a term when it comes to this whole abortion issue that says "mind your own blank business." He says when it comes, that's the motto of Minnesota, and that's so. Vance, on the other hand, was yesterday. He was on Meet the Press with Kirsten Walker, and she asked him about the comment that he made about cat women, the cat woman, and not having children. And he answered it like this. I should have brought the clip, but he said something to the effect of, if people are going to hold it against me because they misconstrued something that I said 2 years ago, that's very convenient, Senator Vance. That's quite convenient to say it like that. You were misconstrued. No, you said what you said. You meant what you said. Let me tell you about this abortion issue, and we're going to do a show on it probably in the next 6 weeks or so. Here's the thing about abortion, and I'm going out on a limb, but everybody knows this. Abortion is not so much, and I'm not to say this is a general comment, not for everything and everybody. Abortion is not about us being righteous and not killing a human being. And a fetus, a baby is a human being. In 9 months, it is a human being. But abortion, Democrats will posit, abortion is about trying to slow down the rate of whites becoming the minority in this country. It's slated to happen by the year 2034. But some are saying that at the rate of white women aborting babies, it's being slowed down. I had heard Lindsey Graham say out of his own mouth on Meet the Press a few months back. He said, have babies. Don't, he said, have babies. He basically was saying, listen, this cannot happen. We've seen what happened in other, finally in Africa, in South Africa, blacks got the political party, and Nelson Mandela, who spent those 27 years in prison, went from prison to the palace. He became the president before he died. And that is the greatest fear of what many think is a racist base of a Republican Party. I'm not saying, hear me when I say that. I'm saying that's what many are saying. And I heard this positive for the first time some months ago, and I never given it any thought. And that's what everybody is coming out and saying now. It's not about Christian virtue. It's about not wanting to be second class in this nation. And Trump has scared everybody in this nation. He did it when he ran in 2016 by talking about immigrants coming across the border. And he has greatly exaggerated the numbers of crime and the number of horrific persons crimes, including murder and robberies, to immigrants who have come across the southern border. He has highly exaggerated that number. So listen, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to have to come back and continue this on the second half hour, but that's all right. We're not going to talk about this all night because we're going to get to some cultural stuff. We're going to talk about some TV, and we're going to talk about we're going to talk a little sports. We had such a great time with the Purple Rain show. If you haven't seen it, Go back and see it. Even if you were not around 40 years ago and are not old enough to know about the phenomenon, when you started growing up, Prince was kind of fading back and not making a whole lot of new music. Go back and look at that show. It is terrific. You won't go back and look at the show and not go and look at the movie. That's what I'm saying. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back at you. World.com, the way you can best measure the value of the success of something is to not have it. We've not been around a week or so. I've been traveling, and we were going to do some other things, and there were some technical issues, and I think last week we did a rerun. But this is a quality. If you want to do anything virtual, you start with GoGigaWorld.com. Let them hook you up. You see how they make me look. They do this show. They do several shows that are part of their network, the Golden Square podcast. In fact, they get kind of jealous sometimes when I look at the nice commercials they have and the nice bumper music that they have. I'm just joking. But the two Toyas and Markia and company will do great work for you. They do webcasting, just awesome work. You want to start a podcast, see them. It is amazing how well they will present your brand. That's GoGigaWorld.com. All right. I said we're going to, I often get jumped on because we'll be doing a show on a TV program. Look back at a TV program and the midway point, we may do a dang dog or are you serious or a shout out to somebody in the political world. People say the shows are not always compatible. Well, they're not going to be like that. It's not meant to be like that. It's just meant to kind of hit on whatever the popular theme of that week is or what's going on at that time, no matter what genre, what culture it is, whether it's politics. We just try to hit on what's popular at the time. However, tonight we're going to be compatible with the first part of the show. We're going to go back and look at last week's convention, and that's what we'll start out by talking about.
Georgia, how do you cast your votes?
Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to officially nominate Kamala Harris for president. Bob Delau, another round of shots. DNC, turn out for what? Turn out for what? Hey, turn out for what? Yeah! Turn out for what? Let's go. Turn out for what? Hey, everybody get your hands up. Hey, everybody get your hands up. Hey, everybody get your hands up. Now, say, we're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. VP Harris, coming to wall. VP Harris, giving the wall. Hey.
Mr. Secretary, the South's got something to say. I'm Congresswoman Nikema Williams, chairwoman of the Democratic Party of Georgia. Georgia, the home of President Jimmy Carter, the cradle of the civil rights movement, where we fight for our freedom. Extremists in Georgia are trying to silence our voices by kicking Georgians off of the rolls and making it harder to vote. But y'all, when we send Kamala Harris to vote, our reproductive freedom, and our freedom to thrive. In the spirit of good trouble, Georgia cast 123 votes for the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris.
So I tell you what, who knows? We know how we want the election to turn out in a few months, but who knows? But I tell you what, the Democratic National Committee put together one of the most awesome conventions in the history of political conventions. That's why their numbers were so high. That's why the numbers were so high. I was looking at MSNBC earlier, and they were just lauding how high the numbers were for that convention. They shattered all records. It was because of the innovation, because they bring many people to the table. It's not just one race or one gender. They bring everybody to the table and collaborate. The DJ who DJ that unusual, that unique roll call was on Ari Melbourne's show tonight on MSNBC. And he said he was brought into this to do this unique roll call of the delegate counts 2 months ago, and he said he would only do it if it was a collaborative event, and he said that's fine. So he contacted the people in each state to see which song they wanted played for their state and for the 7 territories that are part of America, and they asked what song that they want played, and he turned it into a 75-minute disco or 75-minute music video, how awesome it was. And I think Georgia kind of showed everybody when they brought Lil Jon in to do the MC for their electoral, for their nomination votes. The only person who could have counted that would have been Hawaii, bringing in Bruno Mars. They brought in his music, but had he been there, it was just an awesome. It was, and that's the way the whole convention was. And this is not biased. This is just an objective opinion of a media person, and it was just a far cry from what we had seen a month or so earlier from the other convention in Milwaukee. And so, just wanted to share a shout out to the Democratic National Committee for that. Talking about the convention, last week's convention featured Republicans for Harris, and it had the ex-lieutenant governor of Georgia, Lieutenant Governor Donald. The people that they brought on were just amazing, and the speeches. If you were to critique speeches, man, if I'm Barack Obama, he's usually a pretty sharp and intelligent cat. Ain't no way in the world I'm going behind Michelle Obama. She knocked it out the park. What do you call it? I don't want to use the language that I'm thinking in my head. I am a fanatic for speech. I can sit back and watch people give speeches all day long over on YouTube and everything. And I'm just a fanatic for speeches. And Michelle Obama's speech was off the chain. I'm gonna say it again. Michelle Obama's speech was off the chain. Now that's saying something, because Barack came behind her, and Michelle knocked it out the park. Hillary Clinton had a sound speech. If I was rating speeches, I would say that Michelle's was it, and then right behind her would have been the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem does a lot of the Jesse Jackson gimmicks. He has a lot of gimmicks in his speeches, but it was one of the better ones. And there were not really any poor speeches, but there were just certain ones that just stood out. Michelle's was good. Hakeem would probably be the second one, and closely behind him would be Oprah Winfrey. When she was doing it, I was nodding out, fighting sleep, and I woke up later that night and saw the replay. I said, oh man, she really had a great speech. So there were just some great speeches. You know, Hillary Clinton is a great speaker. Bill was good. and Barack was good. There were other great speeches at the convention. And the thing that I like that Governor Walz brings to the ticket is this enthusiasm and this hope. All of the darkness, all of the complaining, all of the divisiveness that the other party is doing, none of that was a part of this. And I just appreciated it. And all of the speeches spoke optimism, and they spoke moving forward. Yeah, that's the only way this country is going to continue to be the greatest country on the face of the planet, is moving forward. Now, I'm trying to do this without giving any kind of bias. Getting back to the election, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna get we want to get over to talk about some other things. I'm still mystified. I'm still mystified. At some point, somebody's gonna be able to give me an intelligent rationale for supporting Donald J. Trump. Somebody is going to give me is going to be able to build a case that will convince me, probably while I'm under some kind of sedation or something. I'm just not seeing it. This man has not given any policy. The only thing he did his 4 years in office, I'll give him this credit that many people don't give him credit for, maybe because they thought he was crazy. He referred to Kim as Rocket Man and had fun with him. Putin, nobody tried America. Nobody tried America while he was in the White House, because nobody tried Joe Biden either. But I give him credit for that, being as crazy as he can be, and as much as he is in bed with Putin. Nobody tried America. For whatever reason, Putin helped him get in and wanted him in. That's probably one of the reasons. But all he did, I mean, in 4 years, the only thing he did was a tax cut. And the tax cut was for the rich, that 1%, the billionaires, not middle class, not those struggling, but the billionaires, 1%. And that's another thing about Republicans. The poorest people in America, the people in Appalachia, and everybody start thinking about black people and slums and everything, but the black folk don't make the lowest class economically. It's poor whites, and they are solidly Republican, and not one Republican's policy economically was ever crafted to benefit them. It's just unbelievable to me. I sat there on January the 6th. I watched Lindsey Graham. I watched the current Speaker of the House at that time. I watched all of these guys call out Donald Trump. I saw some of them cross over and vote to impeach him, even though he was a lame duck president. And they got right back in bed with him. It's just truly, it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. And by the way, I'm going to have to tell y'all this. Project 2025, if you are a minority, it is solely directed at you. I'm going to start sharing every week. Every week, I'm going to show a tenet of Project 2025. So if you're on the fence, if you're one of those black males that Trump says that you are all enthusiastic about voting for him, I want you to see just where that hits. Every part of that policy hits black people and the lower economic class. So we're going to talk about that. It's just fascinating. Oh, by the way, I remember on one show a few years ago when he was president, my brother and I debated whether or not he was racist, and my brother made the compelling case that he was. During the Democratic convention, Reverend Al Sharpton brought out the Central Park 5, I think they're called, and now they are the exonerated 5, and Trump wanted them killed. If they had been put in an electric chair, that would have been irrevocable. And then evidence and a confession came out that cleared them, and he has not yet uttered one apology. So when my brother made that case about 6 years ago that Donald Trump was racist to the core, and not just using that as to solidify his racist base, I have to think about it. Take a look at this graphic that just appeared on social media. I don't know if you can see it, but it's really obscene. It takes Kamala Harris's name and it obliterates it with a horrific sexual name. Let's take it down. I don't even want to see it anymore. That is, those are two white supremacists that have gained a forum at the University of South Carolina, a state institution. Project 2025 is going to eradicate anything that stops stuff from like this from happening. This is just a foretaste if that party gets back in office and that policy that president swears he has nothing to do with. If that happens, you're going to see more of this. You're going to see days going back to the George Wallace days, the pre-converted George Wallace days. You're going to see more of that. That's just horrific, and that's what they are doing, and that's what they will do. Anyway, again, I'm still looking for someone to please make a compelling case why you would support Donald Trump. And the next thing, and we're going to do a show on this in the upcoming weeks, if Trump loses, God, we pray he does. If he loses, what will the Republican Party still become this crazed out MAGA group, or will it become the party of Ronald Reagan again? And Lord knows I didn't support many of his policies, but at least it was a traditional party. We only parted at ideology. He never would sell us out to the Russians, as this guy would and has tried to and would if he got back in office. Y'all remember him saying to Vladimir Putin, did you have anything to do with hacking the election? Well, he said he didn't, so all I can do is just believe he didn't. That was Trump's explanation of it. One last thing about this before we move on. On Friday, one of my real heroes of heroes. In fact, when he died, I just kind of lost hope. When Bobby Kennedy was assassinated on June the 6th of 1968, and later to die June the 8th of 1968, I just kind of lost hope in America. We just lost Martin. Then we lost our last hope. His son, who bears his name, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has turned to be just nothing short of an extreme wacko, killing bears and parading them around, throwing sharks off the top of whales off the top of a second floor of a building into swimming pools, said that his brain was eaten out by, was bitten, and part of it was eaten out by a parasite, the anti-vaxxer. He showed his true colors. He backed out of a race that he had no chance of winning. And when he backed out of the race, he sold his soul. I mean, he sold his support to Donald Trump. That's significant because in those swing states, the difference either way in many instances are less than 3%, and he's polling 4 to 5% in those states, and it could be a difference. So if you are voting for the Democratic candidate, you need to pull your friends to the poll, register to vote. You got until October to do it. Register to vote and go vote, because this thing is going to be closer than it looks. It's all of the glitz of the convention is over. All of the money's in the bank. But one thing about Trump supporters, he has a solid base, and there are always those late comers that come on. And there's about 70 days left in his campaign. Only who knows how this thing turns out. All it takes is one pivotal incident. Remember, 2016, 3 weeks before the election, director of the FBI, Comey, came out with this email report on Hillary Clinton, and many think that's what swung the report, the election. So we don't know. So don't sit down on this one. You got to go to the polls and you got to vote. And we know there have been voter suppression laws to try to keep people who look like me from voting. We got to press through that. We got to vote. I've always voted early voting, and this time I didn't. Being gone, I was gone. So Tuesday, I was dead dog tired, but I drug myself up off the couch and went over and voted on election day. We've got to vote. We've got to vote. You know probably how I'm leaning, but I'm trying to be objective as a journalist. But you got to vote. And when you talk about Project 2025 and racism and all of those things, it's a no-brainer as to likely who you're going to vote for. J.D. Vance yesterday said on Meet the Press that he and Trump would not support nationwide abortion ban, which is something that he has always supported. So we'll see how that comes out. We'll sit back and see how that works out. Okay, let's move on. There's a lot of other stuff other than politics in these last 10 minutes that we want to cover. Listen, we missed by me being gone, and I want to tell you, my wife and I celebrated 45 great years together, and we did the shortest cruise we've ever done. We've never done a 4-day cruise. We had an awesome cruise. The main thing, it was just us, and we were together, and we had a great time. We're going to do a show on cruises in the next 2 weeks because that's a great genre. I mean, that's a great, we want more people to see what goes on and just to kind of enjoy some of these cruises. And living in South Florida where the ports are right here, and then Port Canaveral is just up the road a bit. It's just in the port over in Tampa. It's too much fun to just leave on the table. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to have our cruise agent. We have a young brother who worked on cruise ships, and they're going to be on it. We're going to talk about that. We had a great time. I celebrated my 67th birthday. Many of you all know I got married on my birthday. I had a great time. We just had a great time. We had a great reunion, cousins reunion last week in Orlando. What a time we had. It was just anointed by God, the great time that we had just being together. So now we're back with the dialogue, and I want to tell you about some of the shows that's upcoming. We're going to do the cruise show. We're going to do a show on homelessness, and I'm going to have a spokesman for Mayor Karen Bass's office. She's the mayor of Los Angeles, and she is doing great reforms. She ran based on cleaning up Los Angeles' horrific homeless problem. California has the worst homeless rate in the nation. In fact, Governor Newsom has said if cities didn't do something about it drastic, he was going to withhold funding from them. So we're going to have a spokesman coming in from Mayor Bass's office. Shout out to her for the great work she's doing out there. That was her campaign thrust, and she has lived up to it. And they're going to talk about it. We're going to have Jeannie Albaugh, who's the CEO of Shower and Grace, who does the shower bus for our unhoused populations here in South Florida. And we'll have both of them on, and we may go over a few minutes, but we're going to talk about this homeless issue. We saw homelessness in Barcelona. We saw homelessness in Rome. It's a worldwide epidemic, but there are some things that can and need to be done about it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to look back at the Arsenio Hall show. Many of you remember that. That was a cultural phenomenon. We're going to do that show. We're going to do the homelessness, and we're going to always track these elections. And upcoming, we saw him at the convention. His health is really declining. One of my real heroes in life, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, whose speech at the 1988 Democratic Convention is one of the greatest speeches of all times. We're going to look back at that speech, and we're going to talk about it and project it into this year. And we're going to do a show on the year 1968. We're going to do a show on the year 1968. That was the year that so much mirrored some of the events that's going on now. President Johnson decided not to run. He would have been an easy shoe-in for re-election. He decided not to run because of the Vietnam War. He faced opposition from Eugene McCarthy, and then when Bobby Kennedy got in the race, he withdrew. The Kennedy assassinations, the Chicago riots. By the way, this Democratic convention was held in Chicago, and Fox News tried to make it about protests, but the police did a great job. The protests, there was nothing compared to what happened in '68 at the convention, the protests that marred the convention itself. So we're going to take a look back at 1968. CNN did a special in 2018, look back at 1968. We're going to pull some of those clips and look back at some of the things that occurred in 1968. 2020 reminded me so much of it. Next year, we're going to look back at 2020. The big news stories were the pandemic and the George Floyd murders. We also lost Kobe Bryant at the beginning of that year. So we're going to do that on next year after 5 years, a 5-year look back at 2020. We're going to look back at 1960. Just giving you an overview of some of the things that are to come. Listen, in the remaining few minutes, kudos to the Americans for taking the most gold medals at the Olympic Games, the Summer Olympic Games in Paris. Hope to be there in the late fall myself. It's amazing that Russia was disqualified from the Olympics, and it would have been interesting. They're usually our number one competitor. It would have been interesting to see how we would have shown up. People were saying that this team was better than the Dream Team basketball team, and all I got to say is 2 words: y'all crazy. You're talking about a team with Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley. Yeah, Christian Laettner. He was just that's Madam Producer's hero. Christian Laettner was on that team. You mean to tell me this team, and I'm a Steph Curry fan, Bam Adebayo, all of these guys, you mean to tell me they would have beat that team? I don't think so. But anyway, kudos to them for kind of breezing through and winning the Olympics, the basketball Olympics, and for all those. Speaking of Steph Curry, there is a talk that Steph is put in for a trade, asking Golden State to trade him because they've not amassed sufficient talent around him for them to be competitive. Oh my goodness, that would be mind blowing. And guess what team they're saying is he's looking to be traded to? What? The Miami Heat? Let's go Heat. I could ride with that one. We'll see how that comes out over the next few weeks. They go to training camp in a few days. The NBA teams will go to training camp. So we'll see how that comes out. Also, there's another thing I want to talk about. We're probably going to talk more about this in the upcoming shows. We have the dedicated show. There's a trend that's going on with TV shows that once the show gets popular and the stars are asking for more money, they will either phase out the star of the show or they'll cancel the show. That's what happened with All American Homecoming, All Shoot from All American. Well, not to mention Homecoming, they phased Daniel Ezra, the star, out of All American. And you're not going to convince me that he wanted out. That's what they did. They did that a few years ago with what's the guy's name who was the star? He played Billy on the show. You know, I could think his name in my sleep. But anyway, you know the bald-headed brother that played in the he played in the couple of movies that were made with Morris Chestnut and them, The Wedding or something like that. I almost called his name. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. He went off the show unexpectedly, and now this year Daniel Ezra's going off, and I think some of the other members are showing off. Then they took the star, one of the stars, off of All American Homecoming. Then they outright canceled it. Made this the last year of it. The same thing happened over on Stars. The Power series, after the original, the OG Power was phased out. We thought we'd never look at it again. But wow, how about Tariq and them? They made that show good still. The writers and 50 Cent, they made that happen. So you had Power Book 2, you had Power Book 3, which is Raising Kingdom. Power Book 4 is Force, starring Tommy. They are now phasing out Power Book 2 with Tariq and all of them, Mary J. Blige and all of them, and they're also phasing out Power Book 4 with Tommy. Somebody says there's something on the horizon to bring them together. 50 is going to another network. I hope that's so. I don't really believe it, but I hope so. I hope they're not going to let that young talent on the table, all of that good talent on the table. But we're going to investigate that in some of the upcoming shows and take a look at that and see what's going on. Rather than pay a star, you phase them out and hope that you can cultivate another a peripheral character and elevate them as they're going to try to do over on All American. And then to deprive us of All American Homecoming. They got a great storyline going on now. We talk culture, we talk TV, we talk politics, We talk news events. This is Dialogue with Dozy. Man, we look at it all. We have a good time with it. We're going to be back here next week with one of those shows. We'll promise you know what the show is. We're going to start promoting it. And by the way, I'm going to be here for a while. Even though, Madam Producer, you and Toya owe us a takeover. I don't know when it's going to be, but I know I've been off a few weeks, so it probably won't be anytime soon, but you owe us a takeover. You owe us a takeover. Whether I'm on a ship, halfway across the world, or wherever, I always get the internet the night that they do the takeover. Those are the funniest shows I could ever see on TV. Dialogue with Dozy. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you next Monday night. Look for the promos on Facebook. We'll tell you what the show's going to be about in the middle of the week, what next week's show's going to be about. Tell your friend, tell Paula, tell Saula, tell them all. We have a ball every Monday night here on the Dialogue with Dozy. We are out.